Hello again, and welcome to the world of book reviews. Tonight we are talking about the competence myth. I have trouble with that word. The competence myth. Competence is a tough word for me. It is a book written by Eric Culverson, and Eric is our guest this evening. Welcome, Eric. Glad to have you back for this segment. And we are talking about this wonderful book that he wrote about communication and leadership. And one of the questions I have for Eric is, you talk about being a master of change. How does a person become a master of change? Because most of us don't like change. We want things to just stay like they are, right? And so how do we become a master of change?
It starts with just being open and, first of all, realizing what happens if we don't change. Certainly the world is changing around us, so what are your options? You can always try to maintain, but if you do that and the world changes around you, then it simply means that you're going to be left behind. Or in the case of your career, you're going to have fewer and fewer choices. So it makes sense to take those incremental steps that are possible to actually bring about change. And the change really starts with who we are and what we believe we're capable of. And that's really what the book is intended to be, is a step-by-step guide to ultimately help engineers and other technical professionals achieve the type of change that they need to do within themselves that then makes them able to deal with the changes in the workplace. Or at the very least, it better prepares them, it better positions them so that they can be as successful as possible within this ever-changing environment.
Because the workforce is more and more team environment than it's ever been before, and I would think that someone who has difficulty expressing themselves wouldn't be as comfortable in a team environment as the more outgoing sales type person.
Correct. And it's important to note here that I'm not saying that engineers or technical professionals have to be over the top or become like salespeople. Because if you look at an organizational chart, you've got clearly delineated sales, technical, marketing, management. You've got various resources. And salespeople have their own personalities. Engineers do not have to be salespeople. We don't have to mimic that behavior. But what we can do is we can learn to be more engaging, more expressive, take our ideas, our creative vision, be better able to communicate that to our peers, to management, and basically represent our company, represent our division, represent our particular area of expertise.
So how do we go about doing that if we are if we're like very introverted and we don't like to talk to other people and we don't like to step out there? How do we push ourselves to do that?
Well, it's an incremental process, to be sure. And no one should ever put themselves into a situation where you're just absolutely terrified. But one of the things we talked about before was this need to just step out of your own comfort zone a little bit. And there are organizations like Toastmasters, where Toastmasters is pretty basic, but one thing Toastmasters gives you that you will not find elsewhere, and that's the opportunity to just express your ideas in short segments where you can put together a speech or a presentation and get some feedback on it. But above and beyond the feedback, there's just the opportunity, getting used to presenting your ideas, organizing your ideas. So that would be one way to get started. Another would be just the things that we can do on our own, take our own initiative, do things that you're not used to doing. Just try it. I mean, what's the worst case scenario? What could happen if you actually go to a social function and you actually walk up to 3 people and just introduce yourself, strike up a conversation? Now, what's the worst thing that can happen? Now, I can tell you that can actually be pretty intimidating, but if you set your mind to it and you do it, I think you'll actually find more often than not, it's much more pleasant than you might have expected. The response that you get is much more positive, and the overall experience tends to be a lot less intimidating each time we do it.
One of the things I've found is that if I go to a meeting or or a social event, and I need to talk to somebody and I don't know anybody there, I look all around the room for somebody who's by themselves.
Yeah.
And I figure they're probably feeling like I'm feeling. So
Right.
if they're feeling uncomfortable and I'm feeling uncomfortable, if I go talk to them, maybe we'll both be a lot more comfortable. And then I'll
Right.
say to that person after a few minutes, come with me, let's go introduce ourselves to some other people. And then we go and introduce the two of us to other people until we get some conversations going. And I've found that that's been most helpful for me over the years. And it's amazing the kind of business it's brought me by seeking out that one person who's by themselves and sitting down with them and talking about them and asking them questions and drawing them out. I've gotten more business over the years by doing that. It's amazing.
Right. Typically, it's going to yield better results than what we anticipate. There's that fear and there's that dread going in. But even if the situation is just benign, you meet someone, you chat for a little bit, and you go your separate ways, fine. But there's always the opportunity that we're going to meet someone extraordinary.
Yes.
And it's going to be a very, very pleasant experience for us. Now, another important point about becoming a master of change, above and beyond the change that we need to affect for ourselves, is recognizing that those changes in the workplace, the expectations, what companies are needing and the way they're actually creating a certain culture, it's here to stay.
Yes.
It's not going to change. So when I talk about becoming a master of change, part of that is recognizing that, okay, this is the new environment, this is the new landscape. Therefore, what can I do to ultimately be as successful as possible within this? Because there's no such thing as going back. You can't just wait it out and hope that somehow things are going to be the way they were before, because it won't happen.
That won't happen. And yet I find that in all the different organizations I work in, there's always that one person that is just against every change that the company's making. There's that one person that says, I'm not going to do it that way, I'm not going to be a part of it, and they just make life difficult for everybody around them.
And they last for as long as it takes for the company to find someone with similar skills. And today, with outsourcing, offshore resources, companies can access talent in so many ways.
Right.
Which again, why engineers and technical professionals really need to bring more to the party. And if they do that, the benefits go way beyond the workplace. We're talking about having a life experience that you can't even imagine. The type of opportunities, experiences, engagements that wait for you if you're just able to open up, be more engaging, be more expressive, be better communicator with the world around you. There's a world of people waiting to engage with you.
Exactly. Eric Culverson, thank you. Thank you for being here tonight. Thank you for writing this fabulous book, The Competence Myth. And the subtitle is Why Your Technical Skills Are No Longer Enough and What You Can Do About It. So if you would like to learn what you could do about your communication skills, your leadership skills, get a copy of Eric's book. Eric, where can they get a copy?
The book's available on Amazon, or they can also reach me at eric@technically-speaking.com.
So Amazon or Eric at technically-speaking.com is where you can get a copy of this book for yourself, and I recommend it. It's an excellent book. I've read it. I love it. I've gotten some great ideas out of it. Thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you again to our sponsors, which are skinfitnesslv.com, EV36 Photography, and SkyVistaConsulting.com. So thank you to our sponsors. Good night.